Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I am your host, Rudolph, joined as always by AJ Haefele. We talked quite a bit yesterday about the Avs draft and development process, which was an interesting conversation in and of itself. If you haven't watched that episode, highly recommend you check it out. I think AJ and I are a little bit higher than a lot of the general public on the Avs draft and development, but there are still quite a bit of expectations there of getting NHLers out of their current prospects. And that's what we wanted to talk about today. When it comes down to it, every NHL team, to a certain extent, has to be able to build from within. And that could be the difference between success and failure for the most part. Look, the Avs are quite strong. We've talked about it a lot. We think they could potentially win a cup with their roster as is. But if they don't, or if they want to extend their window as long as possible, it comes down to getting NHLers out of their draft picks.
It does. And if you look at the most recent, Cup champion, you know, they've been good for a long time because they had the stars. They had the horses.
Yep.
You know, their Stamkos-Hedman combination, McKinnon and Makar are going to be around for a while. So the Avs are going to be competitive. They're going to be involved in things. They're going to be at least playoff level of competitive while those guys are at the peak of their powers. But it's what they get beyond that could make the difference. You know, again, looking at Tampa Bay, Look at some of their homegrown guys that ended up becoming huge contributors for them. And guys like Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli. You know, not to mention the triplets. You know, you have those guys helped, you know, the triplets helped put them on the map, right? But the Point and Cirelli, those, you know, Killorn, those guys helped push them over the top.
For sure.
It was they were really, really good. And then they got even better. You know, they made the right moves at the NHL level, trusted their own process, and weren't afraid to promote and put their own young guys in positions to be impact players for them.
100%. I mean, look at where the Avs have made it with their current core so far. 2 round 2 game 7s, right? 1 goal from a Martin Kaut, 1 goal from a Shane Bowers, whatever, Bowen Byram, whoever you want to put in there, could well have been the difference in getting them to a conference finals.
Yep.
So it's very real that and it goes, I should put it this way, it goes beyond the big name prospects. A lot of the times it's about getting a second rounder, a third rounder, one of those other draft picks successfully into the NHL that could make the difference, whether it be for their ability or just to have an NHL player on an ELC, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I've said a few times that I think the Avs 3 years from now could be better than the Avs are today.
Yep.
Between the maturation of Byram and Timmins, not to mention, 3 years from now, we're going to be talking Justin Barron seriously,
sure.
Or asking what happened. One of the two. Between those guys, but also you have Alex Newhook. I think Newhook probably has a higher ceiling than what Kadri has given in the NHL, just in terms of production. Their style will be different. I think I don't know that Newhook puts up 30 goal seasons the way that Kadri has, but I think he could definitely surpass the point totals despite being 2C behind McKinnon, ideally long term.
Yeah.
I think that there's a decent chance that those guys that this group of prospects pushes them into a more well-rounded competitive place than they are even today.
Yeah, I certainly.
That's what we're here to talk about.
Yep. So,
do we want to address what's going on in the chat right now?
Sure. I mean, first of all, you're really making me believe in you with the name Big Chungus Lover 69. I mean, you feel like my Poop Feast 420 at that point.
Oh, a classic. What a callback. I'm sorry. He asks great questions.
First of all, I don't believe Dallas is for real at all.
I don't either, and I'm
about the best teams in the West.
I'm less concerned about the Canucks coming up as well.
Same. Their cap trouble is real.
Their cap trouble already cost them Tyler Toffoli, so take that guy out of their playoff lineup. They got worse. They got more well-rounded because Nate Schmidt is good. He's legit, but what's next for them? You have to continue to get better. Did Nate Schmidt alone get Vancouver into the Vegas Colorado tier? No, because Vegas added Pietrangelo and Colorado added Taves and Saad.
Yep.
Both Vegas and Colorado got better.
The other side of Vancouver's problem is they're essentially betting on Thatcher Demko being the man with 37 NHL games played. And their backup plan is Braden Holtby, who, look, he's a solid veteran guy, but his numbers are not division-winning numbers in the past 3 years.
Yeah,
he's had one truly bad year and then two slightly below average years in goal for Washington recently. So,
while I would agree, Vegas is a legitimate concern. If those two teams played each other in the postseason right now. I think it's a toss-up.
That's the projected Western Conference final. So
the one area where you would say Colorado has the advantage is quick. Name their center depth. Name who Vegas has down the middle. That scares you.
Play down the middle these days.
Because it's William Karlsson and maybe Chandler Stevenson.
I mean, to be honest, it's not even down the middle. If you look at their top sixes, the Avs high end is significantly better than what Vegas has to offer.
I mean, the combination of Stone, Pacioretty, and Karlsson is legit.
That's look, I'm not knocking. I'm not saying their top six is bad. I'm saying the Avs have one of the best top sixes in the league.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just kind of getting there. It's because it's the big hole. The big hole is at 2C because Marchessault and Smith are both solid.
Yep.
But I think they're on the same caliber as Assad and Burakovsky. But whoever is 2C, because right now, is it Cody Glass?
It was Stasny, so
yeah,
kind of a hole left there.
You're thinking Cody Glass is going to come in, he's going to take that job, and they hope run with it. But until he does, it's a major question mark for them.
Yep.
And look, their bottom six is all good and well. Alex Tuck and Chandler Stevenson, William Carrier, Thomas Nosek, and Ryan Reeves. Like they make up a really solid bottom six that does a lot of stuff.
I mean, where they find their success is by rolling all four lines and just constantly keeping the pressure up, right?
Right. And they play a very consistent physical brand, but their big thing, their big thing at forward is that their best players are wings.
Yep.
That has always been trouble for cup contenders. It has always been trouble. And, Ryan O'Reilly as a cup winning 1C, that's all good and well. but Ryan O'Reilly's better than William Karlsson is.
I mean, look at Ryan O'Reilly's a great example of who was the best player on that team. It was Ryan O'Reilly, the center.
Had a career, had career best production that year.
Yep.
Like, no surprise that was it for them. Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo is going to be an absolute force to be dealt with. That's a problem. It really is. But losing Nate Schmidt, we've talked about this. Losing Nate Schmidt to get Alex Pietrangelo, it lessens some of the impact, because had they added Pietrangelo to Schmidt and Theodore, it's a huge step forward for them.
That would be nasty. But
instead of going,
you traded a top pairing defenseman for a top pairing defenseman. You got better, but you didn't get exponentially better.
Right. Instead of, Pietrangelo adds alone. Pietrangelo and Schmidt would have added 3 wins to their roster. Pietrangelo, but lose Smith instead. They add 1.5 wins.
Sure.
That's how I'm looking at it. Just it cuts the impact of it in half. So they've got their own set of issues. I think Colorado. I think they match up. I think they're an interesting matchup, but I think they're both afraid of each other. Yep. I think if you fire up a Vegas podcast and a Vegas-centric podcast is looking at the West, they're talking about Colorado the way that we're talking about Vegas. They have the same problem. Those are the clear-cut 2 best teams out West, and everybody is several steps behind chasing them.
Yep. I would agree to that for sure. Even all the sports book predictions, yada yada yada. Everyone has them as the top 2 teams in the West.
And this is one time where, look, like the West, I still think the West is still pretty down. I don't think that there's a dominant team out West. I think there's the potential for both Colorado and Vegas to run away from whatever divisions they end up in. But if Colorado and Vegas end up in the same division, because they have to do an all Canada division,
that's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah. I think that's going to be all season long. It's going to be a whale of a matchup. And then after that, it's wide open.
Yep.
How is St. Louis going to do with no Pietrangelo? Torrey Krug helps that, but it's like Torrey Krug for Pietrangelo is like the opposite of Schmidt Pietrangelo.
You're downgrading a 1.5 or whatever.
Yeah, you're mitigating the loss of Pietrangelo with a good player in Krug.
After that, you have a Dallas team that's a year older that in the regular season was struggling down the stretch. You have Winnipeg, who relies heavily on Hellebuck defensively and didn't really improve their defense significantly over the offseason.
Yeah, and Nashville is a year older and a year weirder.
Yep.
They've lost a lot. At this point, Nashville has lost more than they've gained in the offseason.
Yep.
I still think that's where Mike Hoffman lands, but until it happens,
you don't know for sure, right?
Yeah. But. And Chicago and Nashville, they may not even end up in the division anymore. We've talked about what division realignment could look like, and it makes the most sense to have those guys go out east.
Yep, because they're the easternmost teams, and just the way things line up with the Canadian division and all that. Yep.
And then Colorado gets the California teams, which are all on the downswing right now.
Yep. Would you take the California teams to be? Is it worth being with Vegas to take those?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's fine. I think in the current divisional alignment, Colorado is a clear-cut Central Division favorite.
Yep.
But if they end up in a division together with Vegas, they're all it's those two. And as long as they don't have the stupid alignment where they do right now, where Vegas and Colorado are going to get punished for being forced into a 1-year division together and have to play each other in the second round, then I think those 2 teams that are on their way to a conference final against each other. I think it's easy to look at those 2 teams and say
they're the best 2
conference
teams.
Finals is for them. So LA is the same as Ottawa out east, where we'll see what a bunch of young players do. We'll see which ones make the team. I'm not too worried about them yet, though.
They're not coming off historically bad seasons, but it's in the sense that the same as the Avs were 3 years ago, where it's like, look, we'll believe it when they prove it, type of thing.
Yeah, they're like, hey, future's bright for those guys, feeling like they're going to be a power. They're going to be a power down the road, but they've got to turn into that. They're not there yet. So Anaheim, kind of a weird mix of young and old guys. They're very much still a wait and see. A bounce back year from John Gibson would do wonders for them. I think San Jose is really kind of the sleeper out west right now, where people are kind of overlooking them because they had such a terrible year and they haven't done anything to fix their goaltending. Devin Dubnyk and Martin Jones doesn't inspire any confidence whatsoever, but there's still quite a bit of talent in front of those guys. You remember they had insane injury issues last year that just sort of got swept under the rug because their goaltending was so bad. If the goaltending makes some sort of a miraculous and unexpected turnaround, I think San Jose will be a lot more competitive than we believe. Then people are looking at them right now. I'm not going to say they're going to push for a title or anything, but they're a team that I wouldn't want to mess with early on in the postseason. I'd let somebody else handle that problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure where y'all been. I shaved this like a week ago. It's been a minute now, but we do have to take our first period break and let you guys know about Chevalier Mortgage. Mike and Virginia have been doing this for over 15 years now. You can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578 or visit DNVRmortgage.com. When you go over there, you can sign up to win a free DNVR shirt or hat, and more importantly, get yourself signed up for a free consultation to discuss all of your options. Since your home is likely to be one of your largest assets and your mortgage your largest debt, both Mike and Virginia believe it is vital to consider your full financial picture when purchasing a home. This includes considering your short-term and long-term planning goals, your investments, and your tax situation. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for your situation. Again, visit them at DNVRmortgage.com to enter in to win a free shirt or hat from DNVR and get that free consultation to discuss all of your options. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006, Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. They are both DNVR subscribers, and if you want to be a DNVR subscriber and help us out, you can now sign up for an annual subscription with code AVS and get yourself a shirt, a mask, and a sticker pack, all with an annual subscription if you sign up with that AVS code right now. Plus, we have the big DNBA, the Nuggets, rather, are doing their big draft show tonight. So we're expecting them to get quite a few signups. So we need a little bit of help to keep up with those guys with their big show tonight. So we don't want to get blown past by the Nuggets, guys. So help us out a little bit. Use that AVS code. If you're thinking about signing up for a DNVR membership, now is a great time to do it. You can also come hang out with us in the Discord where we have a ton of fun. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Are we done here? Should we move into the topic we were going to talk about today, or do we have anything more to say about the West?
We have all offseason to continue to debate the West. So
true enough.
Let's get into which guys have to hit.
So we have my prospect pyramid here. Yeah, I put Byram ahead of Newhook. We've had that argument. Doesn't matter. Yeah. For this purposes, both Byram and Newhook have to hit. Yep. Period.
Yep. How good do they have to be? I would say I'll rephrase the question. How good do they have to be for Colorado to? We say there's no dominant team out west. How good do they have to be for Colorado to become that team?
I don't think they have to be great. They have to be very good. Like, don't get me wrong. Byram needs to be a top 4D.
It's really Byram, especially. Yeah. How good does he need to be? Because with Taves and Girard, you have two guys who are like rock solid second pairing caliber defenders. Probably don't want them on your top pairing. With Makar, you're hoping that he's your true like number one. That's your horse, right? The guy that you really lean on. Where does Byram? How good does Byram need to be for them to really?
I mean,
if max this window.
if Byram becomes a true top pairing D, they're maxed. If Byram is a legit top 4 guy, I think that's enough. I think they can dominate the West with that D.
Which one is more important to hit the ceiling?
Of Byram and Newhook?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters, to be honest. If either one of them hit their ceiling, I think the Avs win a cup. I'll put it that way.
Really? So you think they're of about equal value at their ceiling?
Yeah, I think they're awfully close. Again, we've gone to this conversation before. I do think Byram holds a little bit more value just because he has the ability to have more impact on an individual game by playing significantly more minutes and potentially providing a role that the Avs have a little bit less of. So if I had to pick, I'd lean Byram. But if you have Alex Newhook scoring 80 points a season behind McKinnon, I mean, nobody's stopping that.
Fair. I mean, that's a Braden Point territory.
Right.
Where Steven Stamkos didn't stop Braden Point from scoring it well.
Yeah, exactly. And the Avs, I mean, look, you never know. But if the Avs get league average goaltending and you have Newhook balling out with McKinnon and all the other top 6 guys doing what they do, that team's an easy conference finals team. And yeah, playoffs, injuries, you never know, of course. But on paper, that team is the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it matters which one hits their ceiling as long as one of them does. The question becomes, for me, of those two, if neither of them hit their ceiling, but they're both good enough, is that still good enough for the Avs to get the job done?
Feels like it.
Yeah. I think so too. I do think, especially in this window of the next couple years where Byram will be on his ELC, Newhook will be on his ELC, Newhook particularly because there's no chance he plays for the Avs. And, well, that's not true. He could burn his contract at the end of the year. But if we assume he doesn't burn his contract, you'll get ELC years of him even after McKinnon is extended. Key years out of guys. If Newhook is even a 50 to 60.2 C at the end of his ELC, that's insane value for the Avs.
Yeah.
So
looking at that next tier, I think Martin Kaut might have become maybe the most important of those guys. I mean, Annunen is obviously, if he becomes a starting caliber goaltender, that's a home run.
Yeah, you kind of almost have to put goalies in their own category, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the voodoo there is just a guy could do the thing and become an elite goaltender overnight. And okay, he Jordan Binningtons and takes them to a cup. And it's like, well, he was the most important one, it turns out. But for the skaters, yeah, honestly, I do think it's Kaut. Just as far as immediate impact, it's definitely Kaut. But overall, when you're looking at ceilings, again, of the skaters, the highest ceilings are probably Timmins and Barron.
I would agree, but I think that because you do have Girard, you have Taves, you have Makar, and you have Byram already in place, that if Timmins and Barron don't hit their ceilings, you're still okay.
Yeah, you're okay with
it. You know, Bowers, we're not expecting to be a top 6 forward anyway, so that expectation isn't even on him.
Yeah.
With Kaut, we've always kind of said, yeah, he's probably more of a third line guy. But if they can't sign Brandon Saad, and I'm working on my piece right now about why they probably won't be able to.
Yeah.
If they can't sign Brandon Saad, I mean, Martin Kaut becoming a Brandon Saad-esque player, isn't out of the question. Where he becomes like your 6th top 6 forward, you know, a guy that's solid. He's not super sexy, and he's not gonna drown you on the score sheet. But if he gives you 15 to 20 goals and 40 to 45 points, you're probably happy with that as your sixth forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think part of this is just how much turnover there is when it comes to a forward core as opposed to the defense, particularly for the Avs. The Avs are set up to drop Ian Cole at the end of this coming season, and that's it for the next 3 years, unless they want to buy out EJ.
Yeah.
So there's just not a whole lot going on there. Meanwhile, on the forward side, they could potentially lose Saad. They could potentially, they're probably going to lose Matt Calvert. They're probably going to lose Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. All of a sudden, there's these holes in the lineup where it's a lot easier to place a Martin Kaut into. And then if he ends up not being an NHLer, it's a borderline disaster. If he ends up not living up to the peak of his ability, well, you deal with that when you get there. But
yeah, depending on where he fits in, if he ends up as like a Compher-ish, he gives you 35 points. You're still
yeah, that's fine, right?
He gives you 30 to 35 every year. You're like, okay, you'll work with that. It's a little disappointing for a first round pick, but you're at this point you're trying to figure out exactly what caliber of player he's going to be.
Yep.
And that you're still believing in that upside. Hey, he could, but he's such a smart player that I think that there's untapped offense there, offensive potential. We saw, if you look at his career and you see, he played on some okay Pardubice teams, with the Eagles, like he produced like hotcakes in the second half of the season when he really found his legs and kind of figured it out. This is a guy that has always meshed with the guys that are around him. He's not a driving force. He's a complimentary guy that just fits into the style of play of the guys he plays with.
Yep.
When he went to WJCs and he played on that top line for the Czech Republic, with Zadina and Neches, he was lights out.
Yep.
So what if you get that guy on a line next to Burakovsky and Newhook?
He's the exact type of guy that you look at it and you say, let's try him with offensive talent and see what happens.
Exactly. Well, he's such a smart player and he's such a do-everything kind of guy, a jack-of-all-trades type, and he's such an underrated passer that I think that there's a chance. I don't think it's a great chance, but I think it's a chance. There is a chance that you put him with top 6 talent, he flourishes as a top 6 player. You put him on your third line, he's not going to take off and outperform those guys. He's just going to fit right in.
Yep.
And so I think it will require a leap of faith to give him a bigger opportunity. But I think he is such a key for this next wave of prospects. He is, because if he makes a guy like Saad expendable, not really expendable because it's not the right word, but if they lose Saad after 1 year, first of all, you're fine. It's still a good trade. You're happy with it. Assuming Saad has a solid year. If he totally face plants, then that sucks.
Then he gone. Yeah.
And he walks, and you're just like, well, didn't lose a whole lot that you didn't give up very much anyway.
I mean, I think you're onto something, right? He's the one who's going to define the path of the future, certainly for the forwards. When you look at what they have, I mean, Alex Newhook, Bowen Byram, guys like Cale Makar in the past, even guys like Rantanen and Jost are guys that the minute you draft them, you 100% expect NHLers out of.
Yeah.
You mostly expect that out of Kaut as well, but you're starting to drift into that second half of the first round where there's more to develop out of a player. And the path Kaut takes is one that some guys deeper on this list can follow.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it sets up where Kaut ultimately lands will, of course, be in part determined by him and some of his circumstances, but some of the guys behind him are guys that we would say have higher offensive potential.
Yeah.
If, to be honest, if any of Foodie, Bocage, or who's the one that I'm forgetting here? Ranta. Yeah. If any of Foodie, Bocage, or Ranta absolutely hit their ceilings.
Yep. They're potential second line players too.
Yeah, definitely. You could see all of those guys, but Bocage and Ranta especially. You could see those guys as 20-goal scorers.
Yep.
Foodie, I have a lot harder time seeing that because I don't think his shot's very good. But he's such a good playmaker that he could be a
45-point player.
Yeah, he could be a 15. He could be a 15-30 guy pretty easily.
Kerfoot-esque.
Yeah, and the Ranta, Bocage, Foodie. I think you have Ambrosio there.
You'd probably have Rolston there or whoever.
I'm fine with that because look, dude, if he maxes out, if Ambrosio maxes out,
right,
you're gonna have a really, really good player on your hands. How does he get there is the question. Yeah, Ambrosio is kind of unique in Colorado's system. Well, I guess there's Tyler Weiss too.
Yeah,
but those guys are kind of unique because they're kind of Colorado's Johnny Gaudreau attempt.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna get the smaller guy that's got some serious skill, and we're just gonna hope that this guy turns into something.
Maybe he learns how to play against bigger dudes.
Yeah, 4 years in college and hope that this guy turns into a player for us.
Yep.
So those are where they are. Like if they don't get NHLers out of those guys, that sucks. But it's okay.
I do want to continue this conversation. We do have to take our second period break, though, with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app out there, bringing back this week their amazing offer, probably the best offer I've seen them have, where you can get up to $1,000 when you sign up with a new account using code DNVR. So jump on it right now. Get on it this week while you can so you can bet on football this weekend, or you can bet on literally anything. StarCraft, you want to bet on it? Absolutely. You want to bet on all sorts of ridiculous stuff. You can bet on every point live of table tennis matches.
You should not bet on StarCraft again because you went with your Zerg brothers.
Yeah, I know.
And that did not go well for you.
It did not work at all. So bet on the nasty, dirty Terran instead of the Zerg. But, that's fine. You can go that way if you want. I understand. You're trying to make money, not rep. But use that D.
You're trying to make money, not rep.
Yeah.
That should be the DraftKings motto.
There you go. Perfect. Use that DNVR code, though, and you get up to $1,000 free to play with. So maybe you can even afford to bet on some Zergs then at that point. It's for a limited time only. Got to be a new account, so be sure to jump on it if you haven't signed up yet. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match. Deposit bonus requires 25x to play through. See restrictions at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And, of course, we also have Strava Craft Coffee, the CBD-infused coffee that has really changed lives. It's been known to help with many different aches and pains, including anxiety, IBS, joint pain, many other things as well. You can get that down at the DNVR bar, cold brewed and everything. So the bar, yeah, do that before Friday if you want to do that.
I'm sad I won't be there for the foreseeable. I don't know when the next time I'll be able to be at the bar is.
Me either. It's really unfortunate, but that's the way things go. Hopefully it'll all still be there whenever things are better.
It's a depressing thought. Let's move on.
Moving on, go buy Strava Craft Coffee to keep your thoughts positive instead. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. Moving on to, look, all right, so the first three tiers of this list, you're expecting NHL games out of every single one of those guys. I think that's a fair assessment. Does it turn out that, they may not make it? Sure, but NHL games.
Okay, I'm with you.
that fourth tier is where you get into this conversation of you're not going to be disappointed if some or even a lot of these guys don't make it, but you can't miss on all of them.
Yeah. That's the fear, right?
Yep.
When we talk about Colorado and development and all this, is that they get 0 games out of basically this tier and everyone below that.
Yep.
Maybe not 0 games, but they get 0 legit NHL players.
Yeah.
Or they give up on a guy before they have a chance,
For sure.
And of course, depending on what the deal is, maybe you're happy with that. But this is one where we're not looking at this tier and saying, boy, there's a lot of long shots here. Adam Werner has essentially an NHL shutout under his belt.
Yep.
Thanks, Jets. Some of the Sasha Mutala has been a one-man army in the WHL for 2 years. Drew Hellison is learning to play the role that he's going to play in the NHL on a stacked BC team.
Yep.
Ranta, Foodie, Bocage, and Ambrosio, we've talked a ton about.
The defining factor for me for this tier was there's an NHL skill in all of these players. Ranta with the physical ability, Hellison with the defense. Werner's already played an NHL game. Mutala with the well-rounded ability. Foodie and Ambrosio with the skating. Bocage with the shot. You have, and not included in this tier because I missed it when I made this graphic, Nikolai Kovalenko as well.
Yeah.
Arguably could even be at the bottom of tier 3.
I would have Kovalenko probably on this tier. Because you're totally expecting this guy to give you some sort of NHL game. He's already got such an advanced game.
Yep.
The question will be, as it is with several of these other guys, Bowers, Kaut, Timmins.
Yep.
How good will he be?
Exactly. How far can he push it? And when you have that many bullets in the chamber of NHL skills,
yeah,
you can't whiff on them all. Some of them are going to get to the AHL level and they're just not going to have it. And that I understand, but some of them will have it, and you have to make hay where you can.
Yeah, you have to put those guys into positions to succeed too. You can't put them all in bottom 6, bottom 4 job, bottom pairing jobs.
Yep.
And say, impress me, earn more. Some of those, especially because they're all going to be there kind of the same time.
Yep.
Bocage is next year, man. Next fall, we're talking about Alex Bocage as an Eagle.
The 21-22 Eagles are realistically going to have an influx of 6 or 7 prospects.
We've done the math. There could be anywhere from 6 to 10 prospects.
Yep.
And that's not counting any outside long shots that we are discounting.
Sure.
Look, if Trent Miner, if there's a WHL
season, yeah,
and Trent Miner gets a contract, like that dude, guess where he goes?
If he scores 25 goals this year or something stupid, like things can happen.
If Nick Lieberman continues to play the way that he has, like that's a sneaky, especially because defense, they're so weak back there.
Yep.
That's a sneaky candidate for a contract.
For sure.
And that's one thing where, they've left themselves open. Organizationally, they've left themselves open to sign all those guys that they want. However many guys they want. Right now, they've got 42 contracts signed.
Yep.
And all but, I think their entire AHL defense next year is expiring, and almost the entire forward core is as well.
Yeah, the contract space is just a non-issue, really, for the Avs right
now. So they can make the decisions to do. Honestly, the only spot where they're going to have a logjam would be if Trent Miner has a great year. They may not have space for him.
May not have a goalie.
Because they gave Miska the 2-year deal. They've still got Werner there. If he has a good year, Ananen is coming over next year. They just may not have space for Trent Miner.
And even then, a goalie in the ECHL is mostly fine.
Yeah. You'd be fine with that.
Yep. So
that's the one position that regularly guys go to the ECHL and turn into NHL players.
Yeah, for sure. Also the only position ever to have an SPHLer make it to the NHL. Fun fact.
Who was it?
Scott Darling.
The long shot of long shots. I should have known.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where, and this is the reason we should point out that this section of tier 4 and below is so important, is because this is where the Avs have failed to develop players.
Yeah. This is where they've spent money. We're talking about Belmar and Calvert coming off the books. Nieto just came off of the books.
Yep.
Val Nichushkin's got $2.5 million over the next 2 years to prove that he's for real.
Yep.
This is money that they're spending. This is all bottom 6 money. JT Compher, Jonas Donskoy right now are no longer like borderline top, middle 6 guys. They're hard bottom 6 guys until injuries strike. That's a significant amount of money going into their bottom 6 still, between all those cats. And this is where the influx of VLCs, especially with the flat cap, this influx of VLCs is going to be huge.
Yep.
I've been tinkering with the roster projections for the next couple of years, the last few days, and the ELCs are massive. You lose a guy, fast forward 2 years, Val Nichushkin, $2.5 million. He comes off your books. He's been good. You'd love to re-sign him. Free agency has kind of returned to normal, and these guys are getting real contracts. He's going to get $3-4 million from somebody. He's going to get a significant raise. You hate to lose him, but you do it because, bam, that's, $2.5 million. That's 3 ELCs.
Yep. I think that you brought up that point even at the end of this coming season with the expansion draft. Realistically, the Avs are going to lose someone, most likely that costs at least $2 million.
Yeah, the reality of it is unless it's Tyson Jost,
yep,
whoever they select is going to be a multi-million-dollar player.
Yeah, potentially up to nearly $4 million in cost, depending on who they take.
Yeah,
and you replace that. Let's say it's Donskoy at $3.9 million. You replace him with an ELC, and that's a net of $3 million the Avs have to play with. In a flat cap situation, that's a massive amount of money.
Yeah, that's enough money that gets you halfway to re-signing Brandon Saad.
Yep.
If you want. Just if that's something you wanted to do. That you're halfway there.
Yep.
No, not knowing what his next contract is going to look like. It's going to be hard for him to ask for $6 million, I think.
Yeah, unless the NHL goes, hey, by the way, the cap's going way up. Yeah, I think so.
And some of this is going to depend on the year that he had, but the fact that Mike Hoffman right now is out there
unsigned.
Yeah, unsigned right now. This will be a little misleading because teams will get extra breathing room next year. 1, they tighten the belt this year. Yep. That pays off next year. And then 2, the expansion draft will alleviate them of somebody.
Yep.
Some contract is coming off their books. Now, the bad teams will probably lose AHL players that they don't care about.
Bad teams shouldn't be too worried about cap either at this point.
I was reminded the other day that Griffin Reinhart was selected in the in the expansion draft last time around. Like, there will be guys that end up on AHL teams picked in that, but they should not. Colorado is one of those teams where it's like they're going to get somebody good.
Yep.
Why would you take Logan O'Connor from them?
Yeah. When you can get a bona fide third liner.
Yeah, you can get a Donskoy, you can get a Comfort, you can
get a Graves, whatever. Jost. Yeah. So, bona fide NHLers, anyway.
Yeah, that's the point. And then the conversation today is just they've got to find a way to turn that middle of the pyramid, that midsection, sections 3 and 4, those tier, they've got to turn those guys into bottom 6 players minimum.
Yep. I mean, I think it's just the reality. The NHL has built themselves to value ELCs incredibly, and
That was before COVID, and
Yeah.
now
Well before COVID, and now it's more than ever. And a conversation, actually, this goes a little bit further back, but when the NHL was starting to pick up talks about the new CBA, the main argument was escrow. We have episodes way back that talk about that. But the one thing that everyone was comfortable with was how the ELC system functioned. There was no call to change it. So both players and owners seem to be perfectly happy with this system as is.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the players are as okay with it as they are. I also think that there's some of, we saw the NFL had the reverse of it.
Yeah.
Where first round draft picks were getting, I remember
money. Yeah.
Sam Bradford was drafted first overall, never played an NFL game, and he made $50 million.
Yep.
And it was like career backups are like get drafted in like the sixth round, barely make the team, and they were scraping through, and they're like, I'm not going to make $50 million in my career,
Right.
And I've been scrounging through as
just
a backup,
trying to make a living on the practice squad out here,
right? And this guy's never played a game, and he got $50 million. So the NFL followed the suit of all the other sports where they have a slotting system. The NHL does not have a slotting system.
Yep.
But there's kind of a hierarchy where it's like, if you're not first overall, you're not getting. I mean,
there's like an unwritten slotting system of the contract that like 1 through 10 always seem to get.
Right, but even if you look at where Colorado's given out ELCs in the last couple of years, you look at Makar and Rantanen.
Yep.
ELCs were almost identical.
Yep.
And there were 6 spots between them,
Well, and I mean, that's another unique situation with the NHL where you draft a guy and you can have his rights in some cases indefinitely.
Yeah. If they're playing in a Russian league, you own them forever.
Yeah. You don't have to sign them to a contract immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates unique situations where maybe you draft a guy in the 3rd round that goes to the NCAA, and after 2 years, he's destroyed it, and you have to give him a bigger ELC because of that.
Yeah, instead of the the middle round, like you look at Josh Anderson's ELC where he makes $765K.
Right.
Now you're talking $925K because you need to get that guy to sign.
Yep.
This is actually a thing that Chicago has done over and over and over and over and over that actually got them in trouble.
Yep.
Because Panarin ended up hitting all the bonuses, and they had a bunch of overages that led to cap problems for them.
Patrick
because
Kane
they had
magically it being injured until the playoffs.
right. And but yeah, that's the ELCs. Chicago always gives out these $925K max ELCs with max performance bonuses. It's like a thing that they do that. It's one of the few things that a team can do in that system to entice players. But anyway, neither here nor there.
Indeed. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we're kind of wrapping up the show here. When you look at a tier list, a prospect pyramid like this, the Avs are in a situation where there are expectations, I'll say, in the entire first half, the top half of this pyramid. Now, those are varied. Byram and Newhook, obviously, expectations are sky high.
Yeah.
Tier 4, you're not asking the world of these guys, but you are asking to see NHL hockey out of them.
Yeah. I think the only guy on there where it's like, if he doesn't make it positionally, you're like, probably don't miss anything here is Helleson.
Yep.
Just because Timmins, Barron, and Byram are all in front of him. Right.
Realistically, there's even if he does make it, there may not be a hole for him to fill.
Yeah, and that doesn't even include the defenseman that they draft in the first round next year.
Right, as it's the only thing they're allowed to do. That's now. Right.
They're no longer adding forwards to in the first round. They've decided they want to keep the defensive pipeline going indefinitely.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first defenseman they pick with pick 32. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Good history.
True enough. All right. I guess we're going to get out of here on that note. You can drink a Breckenridge brew to relax a little bit for the rest of your day. They have dozens of flavors. You can get those down at the bar for the next couple days as well, or go to your local liquor store. Use the Breck Beer Locator online to find Breck Brew near you. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. We appreciate it very much. We are about half full on our fantasy draft. We still need at least 15, 16 more people to jump in on it. So if you're interested, if you want to do a bit of a fantasy draft with the DNVR squad, DM me, preferably on Discord or Twitter, wherever works for you, though. With your email address, and we'll keep you posted on everything coming up.
Yeah, we have we got 16 if you include myself. We have 17 GMs right now.
Yep. 17 right now, maybe 18 if Evan does it with us.
Yeah, Evan was a maybe, so we'll see.
But
Still
there's also
so
plenty of space, and there's a good chance some people won't be able to make the time we ultimately set it for. So if y'all wanna do it, come be part of it. Appreciate you hanging out, Steph. Yeah, that's the end of the show.
I think next Sunday, the 29th, I think is when we were looking at doing it.
Yeah, there you go. So after spending Thanksgiving inside alone, you can come hang out with us and draft hockey players.
That's right. Fake teams, baby.
Let's go. On that note, one final thing. Go watch the NBA draft show from us tonight. It's going to be a super big production. Put a lot of work into that. The whole company did. So would appreciate y'all tuning in. Other than that, link to the Discord. You got to be a subscriber to DNVR for that.
Yep, that's the DNVR Lounge. It's one of the perks of subscribing.
Yep. So you can jump on that if you do end up subscribing, but we do got to get out of here. Thank you, everyone, once again, and we will catch y'all tomorrow.